Well, Julian Assange is very confident he will be an Australian senator after the next election. This is despite the fact the WikiLeaks founder continues to live in self-imposed exile in the Ecuadorian Embassy in London, a measure he's taking to escape extradition to Sweden, where he faces allegations of sexual assault. News Corp Australia's Charles Miranda was granted rare access to Mr Assange and sat down with him just moments after the world learned that Edward Snowden, the man who leaked secret US government information, had received asylum in Russia, a move largely instigated by Assange and his team.
I'm proud that we have been able to do that. It was very important to protect Mr Snowden. His liberty is an extremely important message. He's a very important symbol now, his freedom, that whistleblowers are important. This National Security Agency story is important. And if people balance their risks and opportunities the right way, they can do something very important for humanity, but also protect their future.
Was there an element for yourself personally and also for WikiLeaks of connection to Edward Snowden, given the fact that him and others are being inspired by what you have done? Do you feel any sort of responsibility or obligation to help them, and do you think there will be others? Well,
in the cases of people who are alleged to be our sources, obviously we feel a direct responsibility as a publisher. That's true for the case of Bradley Manning, where we have intervened over the course of the past 18 months with the Centre for Constitutional Rights in his case. In the case of Edward Snowden, I have been campaigning on these issues about secrecy, surveillance, transparency. For the past 20 years, Edward, in his own comments, makes it clear that has merged in with his thinking, as has the abusive treatment of Bradley Manning. Quite interesting that the United States, in its persecution of Bradley Manning, who's now up for sentence right now as we speak, for 136 years in prison, that persecution was designed to send a chilling effect to other would-be whistleblowers. It has produced exactly the opposite result. What it has done is remove the moral authority of the United States security regime. Some people can be disciplined through brutality alone. Fortunately, in the cases of Edward Snowden, these are young, serious people who need to feel that they're working a system of moral authority. When moral authority collapses, they won't stand by and participate anymore.
Right. Just on Bradley Manning, one of the issues that came out from the court, as you're no doubt aware, was the description of WikiLeaks as a transparency movement, not a journalistic enterprise.
It's an organisation that provides information to the people. It is a journalistic organisation. I don't like to get into these labelling contests.
Has it changed at all? I mean, has WikiLeaks evolved into something from what it was, or is it still the same organisation it was 2 or 3, 4 years ago now?
It has evolved. I mean, all the core principles are the same. The goals are still the same. The capacities have substantially increased. I mean, let's not forget the scale of the attack. It was revealed in court yesterday that the Pentagon set up a WikiLeaks task force with over 130 people, 7 days a week on that task force. FBI agents, DIA agents. It's still continuing, not to that same number, but the investigation is still continuing. Right. Over a dozen different US departments involved. At the Australian end, there was ASIO, ASIS, the Department of Defence, the Attorney General's office, and the AFP. Fortunately, the Australian population and media wouldn't stand for that, and a lot of those investigations were cancelled. But DFAT and other groups were in continuous liaison with the United States. It may not be known to many Australians, but Australia has spies from its embassy sitting in the Bradley Manning case, and has had throughout the past year. Of course, they wouldn't call them spies, they would simply call them diplomats who were there reporting what's going on in that case back to the Australian government. Now, is that part of the consular assistance function of the Australian government to an Australian media organisation that is being persecuted by a superpower, protecting its staff, protecting the rights of Australians? Absolutely not. None, not a single piece of information from those diplomats sitting in that case for the past year and a half has come to us as an organisation, has come to me personally, has come to my lawyers. It's all about collecting intelligence so Bob Carr can better manage his press lines.
Is this the sort of thing that's driving you to want to enter the Senate?
Well, there's a very personal and organisational connection with a type of corruption of purpose in Australia represented by Bob Carr and how the ALP has behaved in Canberra over the past 3 years. It's quite important, I think, when people have a political position, a broader political position about transparency, they've actually felt the abuse themselves. We've felt, as an organisation, me personally, we've felt the abuse in Canberra.
People may not quite understand, you've called yourself a party of accountability, an insurance policy. I mean, is it a legitimate party?
Here's the facts. Over the past year, WikiLeaks party, me personally, have been polling between 25% and 28% of the vote nationwide, the voting intention, 40% of the vote under the age of 30. That's by the Labor Party's own polling outfit, UMR. That's extremely interesting. I'm obviously proud of that, but it's also something extremely interesting about the Australian people and about what is happening and their perceptions of what is happening with Canberra.
Just on that point, Kevin Rudd, the Prime Minister, has obviously now recruited 3 ex-Barack Obama staffers to run his election campaign. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we have one as well. We had one before he had one.
Right.
So if we go back to 2008, what was Barack Obama's campaign slogan? Yes, we can. Where was that? It was actually stolen from Latin America and Latin American campaigns, but a pretty good slogan. What was it for the 2012 campaign? Forward. Like, that's the difference between the people who are optimistic, who thought that Barack Obama might actually achieve some change, and those people who saw that he was sucked in and corrupted by the process.
How hard is it for you to electioneer from here, from this room? It's obviously very hot. There's no windows. I mean, it can't be easy.
Yeah, it's not easy, but it's a challenge. And, you know, I'm someone who likes challenges.
One thing you mentioned before is that you'd be prepared to stay here for 5 years. I mean, is it going to go that long? Could it go longer in the embassy here?
I don't know. I don't... you know, I'm busy dealing with, we have a dozen lawsuits throughout the world. We have people associated with the organisation one way or another, in prison, trying to not be in prison, serious publications. So we're in the process of dealing with that. My own personal circumstance, well, of course, the situation is difficult here, but I'm doing great work, so I don't need to worry too much about it.
Just finally, the Sweden, I know it's a long question. Is there any room for compromise, firstly, on what can be done to address that issue? And in some people's view, that is an issue. And secondly, do you feel anything for the women at all, not the allegations so much, but the women involved, the persecution that they say they've been facing, the abuse they face, the threats, they can't go to work, they can't be seen?
Oh, come on, seriously. I mean, you can't just come up with claims like that.
This is the claim that one of the victims is making on her blog.
You can't just come up with claims like
She is making these claims.
Yeah.
She's making the claims on the blog. I'm sure you've seen her blog.
She's not making those claims. If we want to talk about you know, abuse and threats, there are proven ones. There are proven ones of very senior figures. There are bills before the United States Congress to define me and my staff as enemy combatants and have us assassinated. There's threats to have us kidnapped from Europe. There's threats by very senior figures that we should be kidnapped and assassinated. There's my son has had to move and change his name. My mother has had to move, etc. So let's please be proportionate when we talk about allegations that are proven and allegations that are not proven. In relation to the Swedish process, we have extensive documentation and have described that. We have said something, I have said something very simple, and my lawyers, through this whole time period. First of all, I am not charged. Like you, I am not charged with an offence. The part of the extraordinary situation in this case is an attempt to extradite me without charge. The formal status of the Swedish investigation is, quote, preliminary investigation. That's what the Swedes call it. Now, we have said Swedes can come here. That's not a problem. They can pick up the phone. They can do whatever. They can engage in many legal processes to do that. They refuse to do that. They refuse to explain why to do that. They do that in other cases. Or they can simply issue a diplomatic guarantee that Ecuador has asked for as a state, that I not be re-extradited from Sweden to another country. And I can answer their questions there. They refuse to do that also.
Do you believe they've been used then, having said what you've said?
It's very clear that the case has been used to satisfy a number of different political agendas. Political agendas of particular political parties in Sweden, political agendas of the United States, which immediately, the Pentagon immediately started spreading this stuff. The prestige of the United Kingdom in relation to this issue, the relationship between Australia and the US, insofar as ALP is concerned. So there's a lot of interest here. That's why it's a complex situation.
All right. Julian Assange, thank you very much.
News Corp Australia's Charles Miranda speaking with Julian Assange there from the Ecuadorian Embassy in London. Well, coming up on Meet the Press, leave our profits alone. A big bank boss gets tough with the government.